Great breathing is critical for creating speed in every stroke. And while strategies for improving breathing are often extremely effective at helping swimmers develop better breathing skills, sometimes they need something more. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. Whenever I see issues with breathing, I try to directly improve the breath first. However, in certain situations, it doesn't completely resolve the problem. When that's the case, it's sometimes necessary to take one more step back and work directly on their ability to manage air in the water. If we can improve that ability, we can help them learn how to breathe more effectively, and that helps them go faster. Let's take a look at how to make it happen. Breathing is such an important skill to develop because poor breathing can ruin everything. More than anything else, it's going to disrupt alignment. And if swimmers disrupt their alignment, that means they're moving through the water with more resistance. The more resistance they move through the water with, the less speed they're going to create. And so swimmers in butterfly and breaststroke especially, they have to lift in order to breathe. So if the head goes up, the hips are going to go down. If the head stays up, the hips stay down. This is also true to some extent in freestyle, especially when swimmers are breathing poorly and they're really lifting up to breathe. And this effect gets magnified when swimmers disconnect from the stability, from the flotation that they have when they're moving through the water. The air in swimmers' lungs is what allows them to maintain great alignment. And so if they're really pulling up, they're disconnecting from that stability, from that flotation. The impact of poor breathing is going to be magnified. So swimmers have to learn how their air is holding them up at the surface and how their air can be leveraged to maintain great position even when they're breathing. So because of the importance of air in the lungs and being able to leverage that air in the lungs to maintain body position, combining floating exercises and breathing drills is really effective for helping swimmers learn how to stay connected to their air, not completely lift out, and how to keep everything in line so that they can maintain their position on the surface of the water. So floating drills like ball float to X float, and active jellyfish are all really effective for helping swimmers learn how to create leverage on the water, how to use their lungs to float more effectively. And when they can feel how their lungs hold them up on the surface, they can feel how to stay connected to their lungs. That allows them to breathe in a way that they don't disconnect, they don't lift up, because when they take that pressure off, the hips are going to go down. And if they don't put the pressure back on, the hips are going to stay down. So the floating exercises can provide them with a sensory goal. It allows them to feel what it's like to be supported by the lungs. And that makes their breathing work more effective because they have a sensory target to stay connected to. They're going to be better able to feel when they lift up to breathe excessively, and they're going to learn to feel when they fail to return into a great position. And if they can avoid those mistakes, they're going to breathe a lot more effectively. So the starting point is having swimmers grab a big breath, bring their knees to their chest, and just hold on. And almost all swimmers are going to float up at the surface of the water. The air in their lungs is going to pull them up, and they can feel that support. They can feel how their air pushes them to the surface, and they can start to use that sensation to create leverage to maintain their position. So if swimmers can move to exercises where they start in the ball position, they extend their limbs out, they've got to learn how to maintain tension in their lower body, how to keep pressure with their upper body, how to stay connected to their flotation. That allows them to hold their positions more effectively with a lot less effort. They can use their lungs to hold them up. They can learn how to maintain that position by maintaining leverage on their lungs, and they can learn how to hold those positions and feel those positions as they breathe. This is another simple activity where they're pressing, they're leaning into the water with their upper body. They're trying to hold their hips up as high as they can, and they're learning again how to create leverage, how to lean into the water, how to push against the flotation to hold their hips up at the surface. And so it's a way to help them learn. They can feel their lungs, they can feel how it holds them up. How can they learn how to control that position by altering what they're doing with their body? So in terms of implementing this strategy, it's as simple as adding flotation drills prior to breathing work. So the more repetition you have of floating, breathing, the more impact there's going to be. So alternating between the two can be really effective. So the floating drills provide them with sensory information about where their lungs are, how they support them in the water, and how they can lean onto their lungs in order to maintain great body position. So the more they're aware of that, the more they can feel that, the more they're going to realize when they're lifting excessively to breathe, they lose the connection with their flotation. They know how to lean back into it in order to get where they want to be. So the floating drills create more awareness of how to maintain an effective breath without losing body position. Beyond using the floating exercises with just breathing work, we can integrate them into full stroke swimming as well. So we can go floating exercise, breathing strategy, and then swimming. So not only can swimmers do it when they're using breathing exercises or breathing drills, they can actually do it when they swim. Because ultimately, that's what we're looking for. And so by connecting the floating to the breathing to the swimming, we can help swimmers put all the pieces together. Once swimmers get the hang of it, once they can execute it relatively well, we have to perform everything in more difficult situations. Add speed, add fatigue, you could add resistance, you could add anything that's going to make it more challenging to hold positions and to breathe effectively. And by adding speed and fatigue, we're ultimately preparing them for what they need to do in races, which is go fast and execute those skills when they start to get tired. So by implementing these strategies optimally, we can help swimmers learn more. Here are 2 sets to illustrate these concepts. So the first set, they're going to go 3 rounds through of 4 times, 2 25s paddle cap freestyle, 1 smooth, 1 build to help swimmers work their freestyle breathing. Then they're going to go 50 freestyle, descend 1 to 4 to solid, trying to execute those same breathing skills. Each round is going to be faster. They're going to perform 4 times ball float to X float before each repetition to really help them lock in on the skills, help them feel the pressure into the water so that they can stay connected to that when they breathe. And then they're also going to change their breathing pattern by round, so we're adding a little bit more variability to it. So we're using the floating exercise to help them lock in their breathing skills, and then we're letting them practice those breathing skills when they're actually swimming. Next set, they're going to go 6 rounds through. They're going to go 25 butterfly, no breath, then 25 breathe every 3rd stroke, every 2nd stroke, and then every stroke. The odd rounds, they're going to go 10 seconds ball float before each swim. The even rounds, they're going to go 10-second active jellyfish before each swim. So the idea here is helping them figure out, help them feel the connection to the water with their lungs, and then they're going to incorporate progressively more breathing as they go through. It's a lot easier to execute the skill when they don't breathe, and it becomes more and more difficult when you add more and more breaths because they have to get back to the same position, and they don't have as much time to do that before they're moving into the next breath. This set can be performed at all sorts of intensities with all sorts of rest intervals to create any sort of physiological effect you want. The key idea here is that they're connecting their breathing to the stability and the flotation that their lungs create, and they're using that to create more effective breathing. If you want to learn more about how to use floating to help swimmers improve their skills, check out the video below.